speaking of Hollywood being tone deaf to their audience, apparently Trump's win has really bothered them, and so now they're bracing for a backlash.
Wait, really?
Yes, yes.
Wait.
So, guys, there was an article that dropped in Vulture, which is from New York Magazine, a couple of days ago, and they kind of talked to some big name Hollywood people, unnamed Hollywood people, by the way, about the reaction to what's going on here in Hollywood, just in terms of like what Trump's inauguration as president, what his policies are going to mean. And they're fully expecting that because he won the popular vote and anti-Trump is not cool anymore, they're expecting a lot of backlash from their core consumer base. And everyone in the Hollywood cocktail parties are basically saying like, yeah, like the hardcore days of activism are over. And we got to get back to more like, entertainment-based content as opposed to propaganda, which is what Hollywood's been pumping out for like the past 10, 8, 20 years, whatever. But they're basically saying like, this is Trump 2.0, so we need to transition to Hollywood 2.0. And I want to start with you, Odin. I want to ask you, just based off of this article, by the way, article link is in the description. How can Hollywood shape pop culture anymore? Because Trump's win, like Hollywood tried as hard as it could to convince people to vote for Kamala and before her Joe, and the nation resoundingly rejected them. And so they're sitting there, they're saying like, are we actually trendsetters anymore? Do you think Hollywood is now kind of like downstream from the trends as opposed to the ones creating them?
Definitely seems that way. I mean, because this was the big question mark that I had kind of going into 2024 was how much influence did the media and Hollywood still have? Because they've been able to show in the past just how much they can influence these things, right? We've seen their campaigns, and we've seen that they used to actually be very effective, or at least seemingly effective. And to have been so utterly destroyed after so much money, like astroturfing to hell, any type of support for this other person, in Kamala Harris. Honestly, it was pretty amazing to watch, because it was them being put in their place, Hollywood being put in their place, mainstream media being put in their place as well. And that's why now you're seeing, right, these massive layoffs happening at these, mainstream legacy media companies. Why you're seeing them trying to now, way too far behind the game, but starting to invest in online new media. And you could tell, like, probably in the next few years, they're going to start to launch, podcasts, and they're going to start to try to launch in these spaces that they just did not take seriously, or that they just did not really care that much about. And I think that what you're ultimately going to have is a Hollywood and a mainstream media that's playing catch up. And I don't think they're going to be able to catch up, especially in the environment that currently exists. The only thing that could ever possibly help them, I think, would be if in 4 years they're able to, somehow turn the tide and get someone in charge of various actions that basically almost forces their hand to give them all of the benefits and all of the goodies and all the money that they might need, or tax incentives that they might need to kind of catch up. But if that doesn't happen, I think that they crap the bed. They put all their money and all their chips on this horse, and it did not ride.
Well, Tom, that brings me to you. Are celebrities dead? Have they been given away to influencers? Because a big part of this article is about how, like, big talent managers said that, like, oh, we pimped out our clients to these political campaigns, and nobody paid attention to them. Like, it just fell on deaf ears. So do you think that the concept of celebrity is dead nowadays, and it's kind of given away to influencers?
Well, that's kind of a two-sided coin as far as a question goes. Because, I mean, we just did a video, it just dropped yesterday, about a different article that we probably have an idea of who some of these power players who may be talking to Vulture are, or whoever it was that did this article. Because recently, Bob Iger and Bezos were kissing the ring. They were at Mar-a-Lago. They were hanging out with Trump. And even though there was a bunch of grumbles and groans when they talked about Sylvester Stallone, John Voight, and Mel Gibson, all the big producers and stuff are like, what do we do? And they're more than willing to listen, and they have been making some changes. They're starting to come around and realize things need to change. Now, they're going to hit resistance from the movie stars. That's where I think the Oscars are a sign of the final re. And this is what I've been talking about for a while. What is the final re? It's that last ditch effort they have. The fires and the election have expedited everything to a place where they are just grasping at straws now. That's the reason. And I guarantee you this whole Oscars is going to be, guess what, Mr. Trump? There's more than two genders. And we need to fight. We need to fight climate change. That's going to be all the Oscars are, and showing you just how disconnected all these fuckers are. Because guess what? The movie star is dead. It is dead. There has not been a new movie star in years. The closest you can even kind of come to it is like a Chris Pratt. Maybe Timothy Chalamet is coming up there. But a lot of his, he's mostly known because he has a big social media following. And that's the problem with Hollywood right now, too. And they're probably starting to realize is not only did they pimp these people out, they've been basically hiring them based on how many people follow them on social media, which is not working. It's not working. They got to get more connected with the audience again. They know that. They've been trying. They've been cutting the hell out of these movies. That's why they've reshot Captain America 3 times now. Although it's still not going to make any difference, they are aware that there's a problem. You even got Kevin Feige out there admitting that the MCU is in a mess, right? So at this point, they know they got to fix things. It's going to take a little time. I think the producers and everybody are going to be more than willing to work with Trump, especially to get things going in LA again and Hollywood, because they got to rebuild. That's number one. And I don't know if you guys saw the video yesterday of where Trump just basically just kicked the shit out of the LA mayor, and it's like 18 months is too fucking long, right? You can't be doing, and that's what these people want to hear from Trump. And that's where this is getting different, is because you had some people who are producers and other things in that meeting, this big meeting that supposedly went down in Mar-a-Lago, where they said, look, we want to know what you're going to do to help us, and you're actually talking about things to help us. We never heard Biden do that. We didn't have Biden out here trying to help us at all. And can you imagine if Kamala was president right now, what would be going on in LA?
God. Shudder.
You think
shudder
18 months? Fuck 18 months. You're going to have to wait 3, 4, 5 years before you get a permit, buddy. Good luck. Because guess what? That's where they're at right now. And they were already losing business to other countries and other states. And they need to bring more work back. And that's what all these crew members and producers and other people are talking about. They don't give a shit anymore about this virtue signaling bull crap anymore. They're more worried about, I need to build my home again. I need to find a home, or I need work so I can rebuild my home, right? Like, that's what all these people are saying now, is we need to get back to work. When is this going to happen? And when you got your mayor going, well, maybe 18 months, we can get you going, you know. It's like, no. And Trump's like, fuck that. No, we got to get it tomorrow. We got to get it going now. And when you got, and he's saying, you got to address these people as ambassadors. So he's taking this shit very seriously. And he should. Because guess what? Hollywood is one of our biggest exports. Always has been and always will be. And as much money as California brings in, that's the bulk of it right there. Majority of the money besides wood is the Hollywood thing. You know, like, that's what they got, that they, you know, that their big state income is. So, and I mean, what's third? Maybe oil. I don't even know if they have any of that left anymore. So, like, yeah. So what else is left there? Nothing. So now they are nothing. So this is what they've got. They got to rebuild. They ain't got time to worry about two genders and all that kind of shit anymore. Maybe the actors will for a little bit, but you're right. The first things first, the superhero movie's dead. The producers have already known that before all this crap was coming down too. Because if Superman does not perform this summer, it's over. We're at the same place that Westerns were in the 80s.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Craig, I want to ask you, will Hollywood actually abandon politics for entertainment? Because, you know, you guys over at Side Scrollers, you have a very simple mission statement, which is like, we make content for real gamers. We make content for real men. Do you think Hollywood will ever wake up to the idea that, like, people don't want to be preached to? They just want to be entertained?
No. At no point in Hollywood's history has it ever led to the pointed to the idea of removing pandering or preaching or anything. And that will ultimately, like, you know, opening up the initial question was, is the celebrity dead? Right. It's just a different type of celebrity now, right? Like, when the mainstream, when Hollywood could control, they could generate new stars. If one star left, they would just generate a new one, and that's fine. They don't have control over who is generated now. You know who does? YouTube. YouTube has control over of the stars that are generated, and ultimately the algorithm has control over who generates it. And that scares them, right? So, but this is the theme that we've seen with Hollywood throughout an entire, over the last 100 years, is there's always something to push, always some sort of message, some sort of propaganda. And I think that there will be a time where some companies get out of it, sure. But Hollywood as a whole, as an entire industry, the movie industry, TV industry, no, man, I think we're gonna look back on this and be like, they had their chance and they screwed it up. Now we did see the note that Hollywood said they're willing to work with Trump, right? They're like, well, Biden wasn't looking to help us, but we're open to working with Trump now. And I think that's just simply, they're trying to save their own ass at this point. You see this with all the big tech guys. They will go wherever the wind blows. They have no principles. And that's how you see with going back to the larger issues of this the DEI stuff, and all these companies are like, well, we're okay, we're not going to do DEI anymore. Well, it was never important to you to begin with. Then it's just all about whatever.
We don't believe in censorship. All of us.
No, right. Well, it's good. It's good now. You can say whatever you want. Just say. Don't put
They made us do it. They made us do it.
Yeah, right. So, no, Hollywood is irrelevant. They produce overfunded, overbloated, over budget. I mean, good for them. If they can afford to lose that money, go crazy. I love going to a theater as much as anybody, but I think that, we will be repurposing theaters for other things in the near future. So.
Well, Brian, as the largest Disney stockholder on the panel,
Oh.
I wanted to ask you, because in this article, they talked about how Disney in particular knows that they messed up and they want to get back to their core audience, because their core audience has largely been abandoning them because they don't want their kids indoctrinated into some of this stuff.
Talking to him.
So I want to ask you, what does Hollywood have to do to get back to its core audience in general? Because they seem to have forgotten that not everyone is a radical leftist out there in the country.
Completely ignore the approved messaging and just write good stories. Like, regardless of what is happening, socially in their little section of blue sky, write good stories. Regardless of what your personal opinions are on freedom of speech, or how much money we should give to Ukraine, or if masks work, or whatever, write good stories. Completely take your personal politics out of the story and just write a good story. If the writing gets better, then everything else will follow. And right now, the writing has been handcuffed to this, the message. And the problem with that is most of your customer base, most people, Americans, most people going to the movies don't care about your very tiny percentage left-wing sky, blue sky politics. They just want a good story. And I think that the last 10 years of movies, the most popular movies for average consumers have been movies that tell a good, coherent story and don't lean into, the approved message. If you go back to telling a good story, then you will go back to making money at the theater.
I want to further that point home a little bit. What was the biggest movie of last year?
Deadpool Wolverine?
I think it was
Inside Out 2.
Inside Out
was the
2.
biggest.
Inside Out 2?
Yeah.
Right?
I
And
didn't
what
even see Inside Out.
So what happened with Inside Out 2? There's a lot of talk building up to Inside Out 2 that, well, there was rumors that they're going to do something with Riley, the lead character, this 13-year-old girl. And they actually, apparently, what happened was she was supposed to have a crush on this older girl who plays hockey in it. And they pulled that. So they pulled that storyline. What ended up happening was parents who have been desperately wanting something that is just a good story from Disney and nothing that felt like propaganda or having to worry about, something they don't want their kids to see, rushed to the theaters, like in literally record numbers. And they spent money on it because they just got a good story. They didn't have to worry about anything. And word got out. It was a snowball effect. Hey, you don't have to worry about anything with Inside Out 2. Oh, awesome. It was a great movie. So the bar was low, and then it exceeded the bar because the bar was so low from having to deal with all the insanity. So yes, you're right. It comes back to stories always.
And that's why even a film like Moana 2 was able to get to $1 billion as well, right? And a lot of people early on, for some reason, didn't see that happening. And I remember months ago I was saying, hey, don't sleep on Moana 2 because, if the film is even halfway decent, it still has a chance of getting into $1 billion. And sure enough, it's basically a decent movie. It's not great. It's nothing to write home about. It's very forgettable, but that means it's also not offensive and therefore is not going to drive people away. And what happens? You have a massive IP in Moana because, the first movie did okay at the box office, but then that thing took off on physical media and especially on streaming. I mean, the Moana fan base is huge, especially with younger girls. And that is a very not well-fed demographic. And so when Moana 2 came out, guess what? They went out in droves. They're still going out to go see that movie, and it made over $1 billion and has been a very big success for them. Disney has $3 billion films from last year at this point now, right? Because they had Deadpool, Wolverine, Inside Out 2, and now Moana 2. So that, again, shows you the formula, and the formula can work. But the real question is, does the leadership of Disney actually have the cojones to keep going?
Well, and we saw that with Inside Out 2 because the story came out later that, yes, they did have that gay subplot. And yes, the people who resisted it, guess what? Got fired. They pissed and moaned, but guess what? Disney said, no, fuck you. We want to make some money. So we're cutting all this crap out. So even before Trump was in office, and that's what I'm saying, like, is it still going to take some time to change? Oh, hell yeah. We're going to still get a bunch of stuff. Is there still going to be woke shit? Oh, hell yeah. As long as movies like Wicked keep making money, yes, they're going to keep making crap like that. But Odin's right. I kept telling people the same thing. Moana's going to make money because little girls love Moana and they love Stitch. That's going to be another one this next year that's going to make money regardless. I mean, even Mufasa managed to do better than anybody anticipated it was going to do.
It's still legging out, man.
And that's just because parents are desperate for children's entertainment right now that they can trust. You're 100% right.
I liked Moana too. I'm gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, Alex, one of the interesting parts of this article is that their anti-Trump bias was definitely showing in this article. They talked about Sebastian Stan's The Apprentice movie, which is a biopic about Donald Trump when he was younger. And in the article, they mentioned it was a fact-based biopic about Donald Trump. And if anyone knows anything about this movie, it was basically every leftist fantasy about how stupid and terrible Donald Trump is put into like a narrative. It's so bad that like distributors were passing it up because Trump was putting in a defamation lawsuit against this thing. Because
the fact that Sebastian got nominated for this, it tells you everything you need to know about the Oscars, what I was saying earlier.
And we'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to ask you, Alex, do you think Hollywood will ever stop bashing Trump?
I mean, the people who really hate him eventually will work their way out of a job, I think, maybe. So eventually, yeah. I mean, eventually he's going to be out of the news. Eventually he's got one more term, 4 more years. After that, what are they going to say? Like he's not, the remnants of his legacy is probably what they're going to be complaining about after that. But actually I'm more interested in talking about what parents want because I got 3 boys. And 100%, I don't go to see Disney movies unless I know for a fact that it's not going to be full of a bunch of crap. And my wife supports us in that, and we're both on the same page as far as that goes. But Disney also has another movie that's coming out soon. In the next couple of years, they're making a Bluey movie. And if anybody follows Bluey, that's going to be a freaking $3 billion movie right there. I'm not even joking. That's going to make so much freaking money. It's ridiculous. The issue is, and if you look into that, the original creator of Bluey, he's like super just non-political, just wants to make good stories for kids, yada, 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 everything that we like to hear as parents. He said after that movie, though, he's going to release the IP and it's going to be run by other people. That's what Like my wife and I both looked at each other. We were like, "Oh god, dang it! The movie's gonna be the last good freaking Bluey episode." Like it's just we're just so worried about it. But like Hollywood's been involved and pushing ideology and pushing politics from the beginning. I think there was an interview with Chevy Chase. I think there's a guy from National Lampoon's Vacation, where when he was on SNL way back in the day, he's like, "Oh no, I had a very particular president that I wanted to get elected, and I used SNL as a platform to push." For what I wanted to see happen in politics. Like this is just an open, not even a secret. It's just an open thing that we all know that they do. And I don't think that's necessarily going to change. I think they will probably back down on the rhetoric just because it's so unpopular at this point that they're losing too much money. They're going to learn. They want money more than they want politics. They're going to be like, okay. And I think as far as like the blockbusters go, and as far as like bashing Trump and stuff like that, to address your question, I think what's going to probably happen is you're going to see less of like the huge, big studio movies. I think we're going to have a second like film revolution like we had in the 60s. So like in the pre-60s, 40s, 50s, all the studios had like a stranglehold on movies. And then we had guys like Scorsese and Lucas and Spielberg, these guerrilla type directors who just went out in the street and made movies, and they became this generation of like, these are the blockbuster guys, these are what they do. Now the studios have another stranglehold on the whole scenario. The history is repeating itself. So I think what we're going to have is we're going to have these indie directors, we're going to have YouTube content creators, guys that can have their own movies, produce their own stuff, use things like DaVinci Resolve on their own computers, and make a fantastic film for a fraction of the budget that these $400 or $500 million movies are doing. And they're going to do better numbers, and that's probably what's going to happen moving forward for this next generation. Is these people like Mr. Beast and these influencers, the YouTube influencers, are going to start making films. There's going to be a new generation of people making films on their own, releasing them on YouTube, and that's going to be the new generation. Whether or not they hit in theaters, maybe theater owners will be like, "Hey, you know what? I heard you released that movie on YouTube. Let's have it come down here. We'll do a ticket sales." Maybe that's going to be the new thing. I'd be interested in doing that. If somebody like Brian and Shane, if they want to make a movie one day and they're like, "Hey, we crowdfunded $30,000 on GoFundMe, and we're gonna go make this movie," and then we contacted a bunch of local theaters, and we're gonna show our movie in all these theaters around town, and that's gonna be like this new wave of content as far as movies go. I think that's probably where we're gonna go if the studios don't change what they're doing like super quick.